Women Taking the Lead, episode 156.
Don't be in such a rush. I think most of us say that, you look back and you're like, oh, I should have enjoyed that more. I should have just been, okay, it'll come, it'll happen. And to just be a little more patient, enjoy my children and my husband a little bit more than I did. And know that sometimes enough is good enough and just the rest will come when it's time for it to come.
Hello, my name is Jody Flynn and welcome to Women Taking the Lead, where we are all about creating blasts of inspiration to help you overcome self-doubt so you can lead with confidence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Head over to womentakingthelead.com to join the community and get the resources to support you on your leadership journey. Now, your future awaits, so let's get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here with PJ Jonas, who is a business owner, goat wrangler, entrepreneur, and mother. After getting goats to provide healthy milk for her 8 children, she decided to put some excess milk into a batch of handmade soap. That decision was the beginning of Goat Milk Stuff, a growing goat milk products business that has been featured on The Today Show, The Doctors, The Huckabee Show, and in the Oprah Magazine. And what started with an initial small batch of soap has expanded into a host of goat milk items such as goat milk soaps, cheeses, candies, fudge, gelato, and more. My goodness, PJ, I'm getting hungry just reading your introduction. It is clearly a team effort to keep the farm running, make and ship all the products, and welcome visitors to the farm. PJ's husband, 8 children aged 9 to 19, and 6 full-time employees all work hard to promote the goodness of goat milk. PJ, that's just a little intro, and I'm sure some people are listening going, what? So tell us a little bit more about you and your own humble beginnings.
Yeah, my life's a little crazy to most people, and every once in a while it's a bit crazy to me too, but I love it. So as you said, I've got 8 children. I met my husband when we both went to the University of Virginia. He was studying education. I was studying systems engineering. And so we graduated together. We worked in Virginia for a few years. That was when my first daughter was born. She was born in Virginia. And within probably about the first week of going back to work full time, I knew that that was not what I wanted to do. So we rearranged our entire lives, sold everything, moved to New Jersey, where I was from, where I had family, and I became a stay-at-home mom. I didn't mention that I homeschooled the children, so we started homeschooling as well. And I really started getting interested in, healthy living, how to feed them naturally, what was important. And so I changed a lot of how we were living. And then when we moved to Indiana about 12 years ago, I started pushing for farm animals. So I first got chickens, and then I got the goats, and then I got a whole bunch of other animals. And we really stuck with the goats. The goats were by far our favorite. We still have chickens because you got to have eggs, but but the goats and the goat milk was just wonderful. It was so good to drink. In many places, many states, including Indiana, raw milk is illegal to get. And so I wanted the raw milk for them. And I really liked what it was teaching the children. It was teaching them a strong work ethic, how to take care of animals, how to be accountable. And so that was kind of how I got into that. And then I had all the children in the bathtub one day and was just letting them splash around. And for the first time ever, I'd been into all this healthy eating for so long, but I picked up the baby wash I'd always used and look at the back of the ingredients. And I was just appalled because it was filled with all these petroleum-based chemicals and all these chemicals I couldn't believe were in there. And I was like, how did I miss that over all these years? I was like, that's it. I'm going to learn how to make soap, and I'm never buying this stuff again. And so I figured it out. I figured out how to make soap, and most soap is just made with water, but I had all this extra goat milk. So I figured I'd just put the goat milk in instead. And when I made the soap and put it in the shower, my husband's fingers stopped cracking and splitting. So that was kind of my, my business aha moment that I had something that could really make a difference. And didn't really realize at the time how big a problem eczema was, because none of my family has eczema. And when we started selling the soap, we started giving out free samples, and I started hearing back from people that the soap was amazing, and it helped or healed their eczema. And they just started word of mouth telling everybody they knew. And that was kind of the beginning of how Goat Milk Stuff really kind of took off. And I was like, okay, this is really going to be a business, and I'm really going to have to figure out what the heck I'm doing and how to do this.
I know, like really starting from a passion, right? And a dedication to having your children live a healthy lifestyle. And the homeschooling and really built this organically. I think when you read your bio right now, like where my mind goes is like, how did that? Whoa, like that was quick. But hearing you tell the story, it was just one step after another. It all happened organically and everything built upon each other. So it all makes sense, and that it was your mission and your passion and your dedication for your children that now you're able to help so many other people. And I love stories like that.
Well, and I tell people all the time, because people come to me, they're like, okay, well, what can I do to make money like you do? I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, you can. There are people who are just like, okay, I'd like to go out and buy a business, and they go out and find one that looks profitable. They buy that, and that works for some people. But if you can find something that you believe in, I have found that your success is going to be so much more intense and faster and able to do it because people can sense your sincerity and that this is something that you believe in, that you use, that you wouldn't do without. And so it just helps everything.
Mm-hmm. And the obstacles don't occur the same way as it does for somebody who's just in it to make money. When plans go awry and things don't work out the way you wanted it to, there's a lot of frustration. But when you come from a place where it's just part of your mission, an obstacle is just another thing you have to get over. Okay, well, this is happening. So how do we get this done?
Well, exactly. And how you react to it is going to change too, where it's going to be, oh, I bought into a bad business, or, okay, no, people need this. I need this. This works for me. All my friends, it works for them. How do I get this out? And how do I tell more people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, for PJ, you're definitely on the road. You've been featured in some pretty like high scale places especially what jumps out at me is the Today Show and the Oprah Magazine. That tells me like you are really onto something and you are on your way. And I can hear like the self-assurance and the confidence in your voice, like this is happening. It's going to get even bigger. But take us back to a time when, you were playing small. I think those are the moments that we all can connect with, those moments of self-doubt or when we didn't realize our true value and maybe only later, shook our head thinking, my goodness, why did I think I was not capable of that? So if you could take us back to that time, share with us the story and the lessons you've learned.
Yeah. So I have to be honest with you. I much more tend to get in over my head and jump in than I ever do to underestimate what we can do. But I can tell you about the time when the business has grown. So I started in 2008. And by 2009, the business had really grown to the point where it was a little more than the children and I could handle. My husband would come home and he would help on the weekends and in the evenings, but it still wasn't enough. And the business was growing. Everything looked great, but it wasn't yet generating enough income to make up for his salary. And so we had a big family meeting. We got everybody at the table. And, Jade was 2 at the time. She was real little. She just kind of voted the way everybody else voted. We had a meeting. We said, okay, look, here's the choice. You guys know we're doing more than we can handle. The business looks good, but it's not making enough for Dad to totally give up his paycheck unless we do some massive things and we run a deficit and there's going to be no ice cream and there's going to be no cheese and there's going to be no anything fancy if we do this. And we all decided that it was worth the risk to have my husband leave his job and come on full time. And that was a huge lesson for me in building my confidence, because I knew from that we were all in this together and we were all going to do whatever it took to make goat milk stuff a success. It didn't matter how much my husband and I had to work. It didn't matter, that we had to, continue with hand-me-downs, which we always did anyway. But I'm trying to think of a good example of what the children sacrificed, but we didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything until, we had built the business up where it was supporting us. And knowing that you can get through those tough times help, especially when the economy goes up and down and sales go up and down. And, at some point when you're starting the business, it's going to keep growing and growing. But at some point, you're going to hit the point where sales don't grow for a while. And how you react to that says a lot about you as a leader and where your business is going to end up going down the line.
And what I really love about this story, PJ, is that you included your children in the decision. This wasn't one of those moments where you said, okay, kids, mom and dad have had a discussion and here's what we decided. So this is what your life is going to look like until we start bringing in more money in the business. It was you get a seat at the table, you get a vote. We're deciding on this as a family. And because of that, you had their complete buy-in. I bet you didn't hear any of them like complaining endlessly about,
their children. No, so there was the occasional complaint, but no, not really.
Right. Endlessly. I know. Cause I keeping that in perspective, I mean, we all at some point, even when we made decisions for ourselves can be like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this,
Well, and the children, I always say that I'm not growing children, I'm growing future adults. And so I want them understanding what business is really like, because we are going to hand this business over to them. In fact, one thing I tell people is I have a 10-year plan. We're down to 9 years. It's when my youngest turns 18 that I am out of the business. And I've told them that, I'll be happy to consult. I'll be happy to give interviews for them. I'll be happy to give, tours here on the farm, but I'm not making a business decision. I'm not, paying a bill. I'm not hiring anybody, firing anybody, that they're going to have to do that. And so in order to do that, they have to be involved in every decision. They have to learn how to make those decisions now, watching us being involved, because I can still lead them a lot at this way and kind of turn them where I want them to go, where I think we should go. But my oldest son, who's 18, he's now starting to push back. He'll disagree with me. Firmly, which is great. I think that's wonderful that he's starting to get his own opinion on how things will go. So it's from the very beginning when the youngest was 2, they've been involved.
I love this. And I can appreciate for those listening, like, yes, PJ's talking about a business decision made within the family, but this translates to businesses where you have team members that you're not related to, right? Yeah. You've hired them, but people are bought into decisions that they had a hand in shaping.
Right. You can bring people along with you kicking and screaming, or you can get them involved before it, get the buy-in and say, okay, yeah, I know this is going to be a tough decision. Should we do it? Should we not do it? When you have a lot of power as the leader to, I don't want to say manipulate because that's not what I do at all, but, show them all the really good things that would happen if we'd make this tough decision. And it brings the team along with you, as opposed to having people behind your back trying to derail whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And the consequences of not making the decision, I think, can be just as powerful. Like, if we continue to go on the way we are going, here's what's life is going to start looking like, that's amazing. Now, PJ, share with us a time in your journey when you had a wake up call. It could have been like at the snap of a fingers, like instant clarity, or something that developed over time. But there's usually a moment when you're ready to take action. So share with us that moment and the steps you took that led to your success.
Well, I designed goat milk stuff to be an internet-based business. That was my model. My children were really young. We were homeschooling. I wanted to be able to sit in our pajamas all day if we had to, or if I had a sick child or whatnot, and still have the business running. When we outgrew our initial farm is actually only 3 acres. We started this on just 3 acres. Our new farm has 36 acres. And as we made that transition and came to this new farm, the location of the new farm actually backs up to Highway 65, which is the major north-south route through the middle of the country. It goes from Chicago all the way down south. And so we get a lot of traffic back behind us. We have billboards that, we get a lot of foot traffic in from the billboards. But I had to make the decision whether or not to stay internet-based or grow to becoming, more of an agritourism, more of a thing that people can come and visit. And that was a really difficult decision because the family lost a lot of our flexibility when we all of a sudden had store hours that we had to keep, and you have to be steady and you have to be here. And it doesn't matter if, someone's having a wedding on a Saturday and you've said that the store is going to be open till 4 on Saturday. What are you going to do? Who's going to go to the wedding? Who's going to stay here and man the store? So it wasn't an easy decision. And I really struggled with it for a very long time. And then all of a sudden I was talking with a customer and she said something. I actually have it written down in my other office. But she said something to me to the effect of, coming here and visiting you and seeing what you do and how you train your children and how capable the children are gives me hope for the future. And I was like, oh man, I got to have a farm store agritourism. And it was just like this instant, like, okay, God, I hear you. I've been praying about this. I hear you. That was your answer. We give people hope. We give people a way that, it doesn't have to be all big corporate and everything. You can support your family and have a small business and be true to your beliefs and be authentic. And people want to come and they want to see that. And that's inspirational and that helps people in their own life. So not only am I providing, goat milk products that people can eat and use on their skin and it's going to help them that way, but I can help them kind of give them ideas and inspiration for the rest of their lives. So that was a big moment for me.
That's huge. And it really captures the whole picture of a business and how people make decisions. Because yes, you can have a great product, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to buy your product. But when people know the story behind the product and the people behind the product, then there's brand loyalty. And they buy because they like you, they identify with you, and they share your values.
Yeah. And that's, as a business owner, especially one that produces a product, brand loyalty is huge because, there's a lot of people out there who just shop for the lowest price. That's what's most important to them. And you can almost always find someone running a sale, someone cheaper, someone do that you can't sustain your business if you maintain that kind of prices. It's a fight down to the bottom and you're going to be out of business if you try and do that. And so knowing that can really help you combat that.
Absolutely. And it's sharing the story. It's sharing your values, being open about it. And clearly this woman, she got a sense of who you were and what you were up to and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And that was your message.
We like that.
I love that. All right, PJ. And what I'm curious about is your leadership style. I mean, I definitely have a sense of it after talking to you for just a short while. And a large part of your team is your family, but I don't think that changes much about how you would deal with anybody, any team members, and the 6 other full-time employees you have. What I'm interested in is how you would describe your leadership style.
I definitely take my employees in and make them part of the family. When you've got a business and you've got, my youngest is now 9, but like I said, she started when we were 2. You have to kind of be willing to, accept that there are children here and that the children, we're going to act like children and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to, bicker with their siblings at sometimes, but they still probably know more about this business than you do. And so that's been hard for some of the employees to kind of, they'll say something and be corrected by a 6-year-old. So I try and make them part of the family. I try and encourage them. I set very high standards. I have very, very high standards. And quite honestly, probably that can't be met a lot of the time. But it's not something that there's harsh penalties, but that I always want to give them a reason to strive to be better and strive to improve. And, so that's kind of how I lead, pretty much just treating them like I do my own children.
Yeah. And considering the pretty unusual circumstances of your business and the situation, what I'm really curious about is, the biggest leadership or business challenge you're faced right now. And I'm sure everyone who's listening is like, oh yeah, what is the biggest one? What would you say is your biggest leadership or business challenge?
I can't find enough employees. And so I've really kind of found that my weakness is the interviewing part, is figuring out ahead of time who's going to fit in here without getting them in here and then being like, oh gosh, that was a bad hire. That shouldn't, that I shouldn't have hired that person. So that's been something that I've really been, reading a lot of books on, trying to figure out. But so much of it, I think, is just practice, and I think some people are gifted with that, and some people aren't. We're looking into some of the personality typing to see if maybe that can give us a clue as to who's going to be better. So we've really just we've slowed down our hiring process in that we make the decision over a much longer time period. And so that we lose some good people because of that, because, they need a quick decision. They don't want to get to know us over a couple of months. But, I found that if I can, get them in, when they have days off, not just have them take a vacation day, but if, come in on an evening and work with us and see whether they like it, whether we like it, because every employee has pros and cons, every child has pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses, and figuring out if you can work with them, with their weaknesses, if they fit in to the business and the culture, because it's so true what they say. You bring someone in who's not a good fit and it just brings everybody down.
It's so true. Oh my goodness. Through no fault of their own, they're just the wrong fit. They don't fit the culture, the values. And I think that's really great to bring somebody in, because I think in the interview, no matter how well you describe your operation, what it looks like, the day-to-day, the challenges, the unique things that come up, people really can't wrap their mind around all of it unless they're in it and they're experiencing it, and then they can decide for themselves. So I think that's a great addition to your hiring process, because, the other piece of it is, and we hear this a lot too, turnover is costly.
Oh yeah, it's huge. And just the drop in morale and the amount of time that you put in there. I use the example, we had someone that we hired who was a great person, totally capable, good worker, all of that, but he needed constant positive feedback. Constant. I am a working mother with 8 children that I homeschool on a farm. I just wasn't around him enough to give him the kind of positive feedback that he needed on a day-to-day basis. And so he ended up leaving, and we're still in touch with him, and now he's in sales and he gets constant feedback, and it's such a better fit for him because he needs that. He needs that to keep going, to keep himself energized and whatnot. And so that's really hard to learn about people, and it's really hard to learn about yourself unless you're exposed to it in some sort of way.
That's a great example, PJ, because I was trying to really underscore, it's not that they're bad people. Like, that's not what makes them a bad fit. It's just not the right fit. And that's a perfect example of, like, he didn't work in a retail operation side of things, but in sales where it's fast paced and you're getting a lot of feedback. Perfect.
Yeah. And so, and that's hard, especially if someone leaves another job and comes on, and then you're like, okay, how do I fire this person? Because they just gave up everything and moved here, and now they rely on me and stuff. So it's hard to be, especially when you treat them like family, to make those tough decisions. And definitely over the years, I've tried to get better at that, but it's still something I need to work on.
I don't think anything makes it easier, but I do like how you said, like, you just make the process a little bit longer. There's a few more hoops, but that helps you really at least get to the point where you're 90% sure, that you're making the right hire. And not to scare anyone, but I know some seasoned vets at hiring. They've been in HR forever. They've done recruiting, and they do not have a perfect score for hiring either.
It's
so
hard.
It really is a skill. It really is a skill. And at the end of the day, to some extent, like a lot of things in life, it's the roll of a dice. Yeah. You take a chance.
Yep,
so
agreed.
Love it. And PJ, what is one thing you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
So we spent the past year and a half on a massive construction project, and we built a new we call it our kitchens building. It's got 2 kitchens. It's got our cheese kitchen and our candy kitchen. And we built a machine milking parlor. So up until a year ago, all we've done is soap and bath and body stuff. Soap, lip balms, deodorants, things like that. Now we're into food. And it is probably the biggest and scariest jump we have made. Because when you move into food, you move into all the federal regulation and all the testing. I tell people, okay, so I fed my kids raw goat milk since they were born. Never once has any of us gotten sick from it. But now, and I know it's a safe product, but now I have to prove that to everybody else and have records for it and be able to track it and, be able to test and show all of these things. So that's, having the cheese, we're experimenting right now with a hard pressed cheese, and it's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I have to figure out packaging, and I have to figure out, well, how do I want the rind? Do I want it a washed rind or an oiled rind or a waxed rind and all of this stuff? So it's been a huge challenge going into the food, much bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. I figured, I only made goat milk cheese for my family for a decade. This isn't going to be very hard, but multiplying it by the size that I'm doing it now and doing it day in and day out, and it's been crazy fun, but crazy.
Oh my goodness. And if it, the way you describe it, it sounds like it is phenomenal. So it is worth it.
Yeah. I don't know when we're going to launch it because I'm trying to get it so it's consistent. And so it's, the hard part about it is my family just has to eat all our test batches. So we're like, my son said the other day, he's like, I feel like all I eat is cheese. Well, at least it's good for you, cheese.
I know. Tasty cheese.
Yeah.
And PJ, you've described it a little bit, but when my guests come on, they're up to these big, awesome things, and you've highlighted your family and the 6 employees. What I'm curious about is there an extended support system? Like, who are the people around you that help you to do what you do in such a big way and do more of it?
I sometimes wish that I had a better support system. More outside the family to give kind of an outside look that isn't so biased. I have a good accountant, I have a good lawyer, but I really don't have the other entrepreneurs looking at my business saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about that? Hey, have you ever thought about this? I think you should do that." When we first started, we went down to our local small business development center and spoke with them, and that was helpful at the beginning. I'm not sure, at this stage, how much more help they would give. Probably a lot if I gave them the chance, but it's time. Developing those support systems takes time, and right now, I mean, to be perfectly honest, my kids are going to be out of the house before I know it. My oldest is 19. The top 3 are taking 19, 18, and 16-year-olds are all taking college classes at our local community college. My baby's 9 years old. I don't know how that happened, and I'm hesitant to put so much of that time into outside support systems when I want to put it into them. The business is growing, the business is healthy. And so, yeah, I could probably, double it if I put that time and effort in, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. And so my husband is by far my biggest support. He and I try and take a walk every day where we just talk about the business or the children or whatnot. And so he's the one that I definitely rely on the most. And it's been fun as my older 2, my 19 and 18-year-old, I've been talking to them more lately and getting, kind of their opinions and stuff. And they're pretty smart kids. They got some good heads on their shoulders. So they give it, that perspective from a younger perspective. And my son's always, oh, we can do this. We can do anything. I'm like, oh, you're just like me. I got to be careful with that.
I love that. And you underscore something that's really important and something I talk to my clients quite a bit about too is, know that the decisions you make are going to impact your lifestyle. So you really have to know what lifestyle you want to live. And for you right now, with the ages your kids are at, you want to be spending time with them. And you probably know how much time, and I'm sure it fluctuates based on their needs and your needs, but that to go to outside resources to really ramp up the business even faster than it's growing right now would be a sacrifice to your lifestyle, which you don't want to make. So it's good to know so you can be at peace with that decision.
Yeah, because you do have to decide how fast you want to grow. Someone gave me a piece of advice when I was first starting out. They said very few businesses go out of business for growing too slowly, but there are a ton of businesses that go out because they grow too quickly. And that's so true. I mean, cash flow is what keeps the business going. There are so many profitable businesses that go out of business because they don't have the cash flow. And that a lot of that comes from rapid growth. And so if you can be slow and steady, sometimes you like, oh, I could be doing so much more, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's really not.
Not at all. All right, PJ, now I'm going to do a quick leadership roundup. So tell us, what is one practice that you have that helps to make you a better leader?
I am always learning. I am never content to stay where I'm at. I'm always trying to learn new things and read new books and listen to good podcasts and figure out how I can do what I do better. So I think that's probably the best thing is that I'm not comfortable with the status quo and I never feel like I've arrived and I'm some great leader.
Then you probably have a great book to recommend as well. And I'm interested in a book that you would recommend to a woman to help her develop her leadership.
So this one's going to be a little odd, but this is the book I generally recommend because I love it. It's called Lady on the Hill, and I want to say the author is Covington, if I remember correctly. And it's the story of the Biltmore estate. Are you familiar with the Biltmore?
No.
Okay, so the Biltmore is the largest private residence in America. It was built by Vanderbilt, and it's huge. It's massive. It's in North Carolina, and you can go and tour it. It's amazing to tour. I totally recommend it. But their fortunes lessened, and they couldn't afford the upkeep of it. And most private residences have gone into where they become publicly owned. They get, they're nonprofits. They're bought by a museum or by the government or whatnot. Well, it's the story of how the grandson, I believe, rescued the Biltmore and turned it into this thriving business that I think they have like 600 employees or something like that. It's amazing, the story of how they turned it around, how everybody told him he couldn't do it and how he did it. And so it's very inspirational.
Mm-hmm. And there's that core value of, I can do this. Yeah. Oh, yes, I can.
The best way for me to succeed is to tell me I can't do it.
I love that. So PJ, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't be in such a rush. I think most of us say that, you look back and you're like, oh, I should have enjoyed that more. I should have just been, okay, it'll come, it'll happen. And to just be a little more patient, enjoy my children and my husband a little bit more than I did. And know that, sometimes enough is good enough, and just the rest will come when it's time for it to come.
That's good advice at any age, both of them. All right, PJ, share with us a success quote or a mantra and why it has meaning for you.
So I went to the University of Virginia, as I mentioned before, and Thomas Jefferson is credited with a quote that says, "I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it." And that is something that I teach my children. We all hear stories sometimes of overnight successes, and we don't hear about the years and years of hard work that went into becoming an overnight success. And so don't ever expect anything to be handed to you. You're going to have to work for it. And work isn't a bad thing. I teach my children that all the time. We work hard on a farm. There's constant. The goats need to be milked twice a day, every day. We don't have a day off. We work. The farm store's open 6 days a week, and Sunday, we don't have it open on Sunday, but we have to take care of the goats on Sunday. So it's not like we ever really have a complete day off unless we leave the farm. And it's not something that you want to try and run away from. What you want to do is find work that you love and work that you enjoy and work that's meaningful. I tell my kids, if we have the best kind of work, we get to help people with their skin and help people to eat good, healthy goat milk foods, and we get to work together as a family. My husband doesn't have to go off to a separate job. He gets to stay here and see his kids grow up, and that's the best. I can't imagine designing a better lifestyle than that.
Mm-hmm. I heard a talk recently where it said you can look at anything from two ways. You can look at it as an obligation or as an opportunity. And I find when I'm thinking in terms of like, oh, I have to do this, I started changing my language around that too. I get to do this. Yeah. I get to do this. And it completely changes my outlook and how I experience stress. Like I'm less stressed when I come from the perspective of I get to do this. This is an opportunity for me. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
And it sure does. And PJ, lastly, what is the best way for this community to connect with you?
So you can get to me straight through my website, which is www.goatmilkstuff.com. And you can get to me anywhere from there. We are on all social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter, all under Goat Milk Stuff. I do Instagram and Pinterest. I don't do any of them super great because I'm very busy, but I do my best. I try and share a lot of what the family's up to on the Facebook page, and leave some of the more business stuff for the website itself. So I also have a podcast that I don't do anymore. That you can get to from the website and the blog. So that's
awesome. Yeah, that's why your sound quality is so great. I love it.
And I also have a free bar of soap for your listeners. If they'd like to try the goat milk soap, they can get to it. All they have to do is go to the website at goatmilkstuff.com/women, and that's plural, WOMEN, soap for the podcast. So goatmilkstuff.com/women soap.
Yay! I already knew I was going to go to the website and check it out and buy something just from the way you described everything. So thank you so much for that, PJ. That's very generous.
Absolutely.
Nice. And so for those of you who are listening in, you can find all the links and resources that PJ shared in this episode at womentakingthelead.com. If you put PJ in the search bar, her show notes page, the blog that accompanies this post will come right up, and you can find the links to her website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram page. And I'm sure you have tons of pictures of what life is like on the farm, which I'm very interested in going checking out. So PJ, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy, busy schedule to inspire and enlighten us. We are all better for having met you.
This was wonderful. Thanks for having me, Jody.
Thank you for joining me on Women Taking the Lead. Are you ready to take the lead in your own life but need some support? Head over to womentakingthelead.com/contact to introduce yourself. And to strengthen you on your leadership journey, I'd like to send you off with a quote from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Again, thank you for joining with me, and here's to your success.